Can everyone hear me? Yes. My name's Cecelia Long. I'm one of the co-chairs of Bloomington-Normal Democratic Socialists of America, and I'm also a community organizer. While our democracy is threatened across the country, the injustice in our community is alive and well. While we have local leaders showing their loyalty to sabotaging our democracy, we have a crisis happening right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic in the winter and have no emergency shelter available. With the ice storm that happened this past weekend, the falling of our oldest trees on electric lines, there are thousands right now without power and without heat. As people are freezing in their homes, we have a county board who has not stepped up to take action on this crisis. The issue of not having an emergency shelter in our community was brought to the county board chair, John McIntyre, as well as the rest of the county board, and I saw Lizzie Johnston speaking here earlier. We brought this to you in the spring when COVID-19 hit our community, and the response to this cry for help was to dismiss the issue, saying that we didn't need to worry about it, that an outbreak in a homeless shelter or nursing home was likely not possible, and passed off responsibility to path crisis and directed people to call 211.
That ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right.
That's not right.
That's some bullshit.
Well, PATH does not have an emergency housing fund right now, and the Salvation Army, the only emergency shelter that has been accepting people, has just had a COVID outbreak. We need to demand more from our elected leaders responsible for keeping our community well.
Right.
Right now, there's a flag behind me frozen to the pole, unable to fly freely, which seems to share the metaphor to what we are experiencing right now, as people are freezing in their homes and on the streets. That is not what democracy looks like.
All right.
If you are interested in getting involved with this issue, we are passing around a sign-up sheet. Matt's passing it around, and I'm going to pass it off to our PR officer, Louis Goseland.
Woo!
Thank you, everybody, for being here. One thing that I've heard repeatedly throughout this evening is this idea that democracy is something that we have to actively participate in. I would argue that democracy is a responsibility, and as Cecelia mentioned, democracy means holding our elected officials accountable, holding them accountable to having an emergency housing plan, holding them accountable to keeping a monitor and a watchful eye of the spread of COVID-19 in the McLean County Jail, holding our county board officials accountable to the fact that the inmates for profit scheme, where inmates have dollar signs on their heads in the eyes of the elected officials who continue to rake in for-profit money from a corporation that benefits and has said, if you keep this place full, you're guaranteed this much money. So let's remember that the Donald Trump administration came in because democracy was already struggling 4 years ago. Let's remember that democracy, in order for it to thrive, means that each of us have to use our voices to name names.
So does.
And to point to those who owe us action, to point to those who we've elected and entrusted with our commons, with our right to make the kinds of lives that we need. So let's hold those folks accountable. Now, there are two people who I also want to name here locally. Let's not pretend that everything that happened in D.C. and stayed in D.C. There's a candidate for elected office. This is what democracy looks like. There's a candidate for elected office.
All right.
Named David.
Thank you very much, Louis.
It took 50 people.
Let him speak! Let him speak!
And transported them to the violence in D.C. Right?
Democracy isn't taking the mic away.
Exactly.
I think it's important that we speak about the issues and not the people tonight. Okay?
The chair of the
Louis, do you want to
McLean County
finish?
Republican Party, spread the lie that this election was a fraud. And it was rigged. The Bloomington-Normal chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America call on Connie Beard to step down from her position as
As the chair of the McLean County Republican Party.
As the chair of the McLean County Republican Party.
The Bloomington-Normal chapter.
The Bloomington-Normal chapter.
Of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Call on David Blumenstein.
Call on David Blumenstein.
To drop his candidacy.
To drop his candidacy.
From the Normal Town Council.
From the Normal Town Council.
Because they helped facilitate and fuel violence
that
is attacking
our
democracy.
Our democracy.
I can count on you
I can count on you
to call on them
to call on them
to drop out.
to drop out.
Please grab their phone number.
Please grab their phone number
And give them a call.
and give them a call.
This is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Well, it's hard to disagree. That is what democracy looks like. I just wish I would have known we were going to have a chant tonight. So I appreciate that. Thank you for coming. We are going to close it out with a small prayer from